Tobirama Senju, the second Hokage of the Hidden Leaf Village and one of the most brilliant and intelligent shinobi in the entire Naruto franchise, versus Sakazuki, otherwise known as Fleet Admiral Akainu, who ascended to leading the Marines in the world of One Piece after the Paramount War of Marineford. The hater of the Uchiha clan versus the hater of pirates. Literally, how could I not have these two fight each other? But all jokes aside, the comparison is there with their respective characters. Tobirama's whole worldview was warped by the war he was forced to fight in since he was a child against the Uchiha clan. And although we don't know the backstory of Akainu yet, the official picture of him as a child pretty much shows that his poor condition is likely from being screwed over by pirates in some way. Both of them have been molded by the animosity they have towards the people they view as their enemy, and neither will hesitate to take those enemies down by following their own paths of justice. Just like always, quick disclaimer, I'm a fan of both Naruto and One Piece, and will do the best I can to assess both characters and arsenals as accurately as I can, and I'd appreciate it if we can just sit down and have a discussion about the topic, so try not to be that snarky guy who thinks I'm being biased or malicious with the video if you disagree with my opinion for X reason, because it's never going to be that deep when we're talking about fictional characters duking it out. Also, we are super close to 1,000 subs on the channel now, so I'd appreciate it if you subscribe and check out the other stuff I have on the channel. And with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the discussion. This section should be pretty straightforward, and I don't believe anyone should have a real issue with my reasoning. Similar to my Hashirama vs Whitebeard video, we're taking both characters at their prime, which would be Akainu as a fleet admiral and Tobirama while he was alive. It's been stated numerous times that reanimated Edo Tensei don't have access to their full power. Tobirama in particular makes note several times during the war arc of how frustrated he is for not having access to his full strength, so using him while he's alive makes the most sense so he isn't burdened by those restrictions. And as for Akainu, pretty much everyone has grown in strength since Marineford. Akainu is an endgame antagonist along with Blackbeard and Emu. By the time Oda has him fighting in the final saga, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. With that being said though, there is relevant information that we do now have that would scale him above his Marineford counterpart that we will discuss later in this video. As I said, pretty straightforward, so let's go ahead and jump into the character's speed. I've covered One Piece character speeds quite frequently on this channel, and if you're curious for more detail, go check out my Lightspeed in One Piece video. But to do a quick crash course, the lasers for the pacifistas are confirmed to be light. Base Sabaody Luffy dodges it. From that point onwards, any character who scales above this version of Luffy is moving faster than light. Akainu has had multiple reaction feats to characters like Whitebeard, Marco, and Vista, as well as Kuzan, all characters who scale drastically above base Sabaody Luffy. For Tobirama's case, it's also pretty straightforward. Madara quite literally states that Tobirama was the fastest shinobi back during the Warring Clans era, which in terms of speed would automatically put him above himself as well as Hashirama. Whether you think this is because of his normal body flicker or the Flying Thunder God technique, it doesn't change the fact that Tobirama was the fastest shinobi while alive during that time. The Raikage in B's Lariat has a direct statement of them approaching the speed of light, and Edo Madara bullies the Raikage badly during the 5 Kage fight, automatically making them slower than alive Tobirama. Even if you were to disagree with the Raikage statement because you may not agree with the translation, Tobirama throughout the entire war shows relatively to Minato in speed. Minato is 100% faster, but Tobirama being just a notch below him is still insane for the context of Naruto. If you believe the guy who created the Flying Thunder God Jutsu or the guy who is better user of the technique than the creator aren't moving faster than light in 2025, then power to you. I'm gonna keep it pushing though. Let's go ahead and move on to the next section. Because there's such a difference between both fighters' abilities, I'll break down their arsenals one section each. And for this video, we'll start with Tobirama. And Tobirama has to be one of the most underrated top tiers in all of Naruto. As I said earlier, he was confirmed by Madara to be the fastest during the Warring Clans era. Being above Hashirama and Madara in literally any category is already insanely impressive. Stack that on with the fact that he has one of the best sensory abilities in the verse, allowing him to sense chakra from countries away, making sneaking up on him virtually impossible while he has the ability activated. His battle IQ is also incredibly high, seeing as he was able to figure out immediately that the Truth Seeker orbs do permanent damage to the Edo Tensei after Obito regained his sense of self, and immediately synced up with Naruto the second he realized that Senjutsu would work against Obito as well. I mean, to break it down, he's the creator of the Shinobi Academy, the Anbu Black Ops, the Shadow Clone Jutsu, the Flying Thunder God, and the Edo Tensei Reanimation Jutsu, which again speaks on his intelligence because how do you even come up with the ability of crossing through space-time to teleport to marked locations and bringing people back from the dead to serve as your undead minions? It's actually insane to think about considering he didn't have like the same level of talent as Hashirama, he wasn't a Jinchuriki, he didn't have any buffs like Sage Jutsu, these are just abilities he managed to create on his own. Plus, his teleportation with the Flying Thunder God may not be as proficient as Minato's, but he still pulled off being able to teleport essentially the complete Nine Tails during the war. Another scary fact about his teleportation is that his shadow clones are capable of doing so as well. Even if they are confirmed to have less proficiency than Tobirama himself, it's still scary having a powerful teleporter spawn clones who can also teleport as well. Tobirama is also a master of all chakra natures, which is always a plus, but his usual choice out of all these would be his water style techniques. It's entirely likely he has other water jutsu in his arsenal, but we know he can perform the water dragon jutsu, the water wall, his heavily weeping senbone, his severing wave technique, and although not shown on screen, likely the water bomb jutsu given that a bunch of fodder can pull it off too. It's also worth noting that Tobirama's funniest and most messed up jutsu in his arsenal is the tandem paper bombs by far, which essentially are just paper bombs that summon more paper bombs, creating a near endless explosion. But Tobirama canonically would revive people from the dead with Edo Tensei, attach the tandem paper bombs onto them, and then send them out on a suicide run towards his enemies, which is just so messed up to think about. Like, imagine all the Uchiha who died because their dead homie charged at them with a bunch of bombs strapped to them. The fact that the Edo Tensei will continue to regenerate and that they won't go away until the caster undoes the jutsu is also just as crazy. Again, I don't understand how Tobirama was capable of coming up with such a powerful technique, but considering the amount of damage it caused during the war arc, it's not a surprise that he made the technique a forbidden jutsu while alive. Out of all the ninja in the Naruto franchise, Tobirama has one of the deepest and most versatile bags in history, and it only makes sense given his intelligence and leadership why he'd be chosen to be the new leader of the Leaf Village after Hashirama. And now we have the Red Dog himself, Akainu. And in contrast to me saying Tobirama is one of the most underrated top tiers in Naruto, Akainu is one of the most disrespected top tiers in One Piece by far. In my opinion, this is mainly due to people still being upset that he took out Ace, but if we look at things objectively and without bias, Akainu is without question one of the strongest characters alive right now in the story. First off, right out the gate, he has relative haki to both Kizaru and Aokiji at the bare minimum, seeing as all three of them sensed at the same time when Whitebeard pulled up at the beginning of Marineford. On top of this, all three of them have showed advanced armament haki, seeing as they projected their haki to stop Whitebeard's quake from destroying the execution platform. Also, as previously mentioned in the speed section of this video, Akainu was able to react and morph his body to dodge the haki attacks that Marco and Vista launched against him. Whether you think Akainu is using Future Sight here similarly to Katakuri and how he morphed his body to dodge the attacks is debatable, but no matter what, this is a good feat of observation haki bare minimum. But looking past this, what makes Akainu so feared is his usage of the Magma Devil Fruit. It's been confirmed that Akainu has the highest offensive power, Devil Fruit wise, in the story. And it makes sense, considering that when up against Whitebeard, he literally burned a hole through his chest after landing a single strike and burned a chunk of his face off with another. There's very few individuals who could be argued to do the same endurance feats portrayed by Whitebeard. Kuma, for example, is not only a modified cyborg, but is a buccaneer, a race in One Piece who have stronger bodies than humans, and yet Akainu grazing just the side of his face caused his flesh to immediately be burned away. We see that when Jozu chucked a giant chunk of ice towards the Marines, Akainu with just one attack from his Great Eruption technique instantly vaporized it out of the air. To follow up, Akainu is confirmed to have superior fire compared to Ace, someone who can emit so much heat with just their presence, it prevents an entire town in Drum Island from having snowfall while he's there. He's capable of quite literally raining magma from the sky, and we see multiple times how his magma is strong enough to have full-on clashes against Whitebeard's quakes. And speaking of Whitebeard's quakes, it seems like a lot of people tend to shut off their brains after Akainu eats an off-guard quake fist followed by an even stronger one. Akainu never got knocked out by the attacks and literally buried his way underground to immediately spawn in front of Jinbei, who was running away from him and trying to keep Luffy alive. He literally fights against all of Whitebeard's commanders who are trying to protect Luffy by keeping Akainu at bay. For whatever weird reason, some do not want to acknowledge this, or how Whitebeard 100% got saved by the plot after getting that first hole blown in him. Literally, bro was on his knees, not moving and wide open, but Oda literally makes Akainu just back off and allow fodder to attack Whitebeard instead. That makes zero sense. Y'all can look this up for yourselves, chapter 568 and 569 of the story. Tell me what was Whitebeard gonna do if Akainu went for another strike, but hey, you know, it is what it is. To move on, we also have to mention the battle Akainu had against Aokiji that completely terraformed Punk Hazard. We learned during Garp's raid on Hachinosu that Kuzan has relative physical strength to prime Garp, seeing as Kuzan was trained by him for decades. This is important because we have to remember this fight is a fight against two of the strongest Logias in the series. Attacks without Haki do not hurt Logias, meaning they were not just simply chucking their elemental attacks at each other. They incorporated Haki-infused strikes against each other, meaning at minimum, Akainu is able to take strikes like Kuzan's Ice Glove over the course of 10 days. To this day, the longest recorded one-on-one battle in the entire story. Akainu is a genuine monster, and when he has the chance to use his full power again in the story, it will definitely be one of the most intense fights we'll see. Now this battle is actually interesting given the deep bag Tobirama has versus the lethality in basically all of Akainu's attacks. To start, attacks like the Flying Thunder God Slash and Tandem Paper Bombs will not work against someone like Akainu. It's been shown several times that Logias are unaffected by any forms of attacks that have no Haki coded on them. Tobirama's landing the slash would just go right through him and possibly melt Tobirama's sword or kunai. The Tandem Paper Bombs would just keep exploding, but it won't affect Akainu at all. Keep in mind, Obito as the Ten Tails Jinchuriki just used a True Seeker Orb to defend against taking any damage. Also, trying to use explosions against a walking volcano is probably not the best idea. I'm sure Tobirama has reanimations he could summon, seeing as he is the creator of the Edo Tensei, but the problem is that we don't know a single one he possibly would have in his possession. Plus, we can definitely say he doesn't have anyone as strong as Hashirama or Madara, for example, to summon, so I'm willing to give him the technique in this battle, but it's likely any ninja he would potentially summon would be weaker and slower than him. It's entirely in character for someone as crafty as Tobirama to use a clone as a decoy in order to land a sneak attack on his opponents, but I'd argue that wouldn't be possible considering Akainu having observation Haki to cover his blind spot. We see Madara be able to dodge the attack as well due to the enhanced sensory abilities he received after stealing Hashirama's nature energy and gaining his variant of Sage Mode. Tobirama isn't dumb. He canonically is not going to keep trying something if he believes there's no merit or point to it. With all that being said, Tobirama essentially only has his water style jutsu to rely on. Speaking objectively, having water in your possession is always great against a Devil Fruit user, but there is a misconception that essentially everyone with a Devil Fruit flat out crumbles if water gets into contact with them or they are unable to use their powers. In SPS 41, Oda confirms that Devil Fruit users grow weak from having their entire bodies submerged in water, and it specifies that less than half their body or simply their limbs does not sap away all of their strength. Even complete submergence doesn't deactivate a Devil Fruit user's powers. For example, in chapter 86 during Arlong Park, Luffy's body was still capable of stretching while having his whole body submerged in water. During the Fishman Island arc in chapter 605, Luffy literally sticks his hand out into the ocean and is still able to use attacks with his exposed arm while his strength was being drained. So in order to really do any damage with his water, Tobirama would have to completely submerge Akainu in water, and I'd argue that is going to be incredibly hard to do considering that Akainu was able to instantly vaporize the giant chunk of ice launched by Jozu. I can't imagine any big water attacks not being immediately evaporated when Akainu responds. Keep in mind as well, there is nothing that would stop Akainu from being able to terraform the battlefield to make things more in his favor. Even if Tobirama can conjure water without a source, the potential of his water being evaporated is a real possibility. Not to mention as well, that while alive, Tobirama's chakra isn't going to refill like it did while he was in Edo Tensei reanimation, and it's made clear that he doesn't remotely have the same large quantity of chakra as Hashirama. We see after being freed from the chakra rods by Sasuke, Tobirama blatantly states that he only has enough chakra to teleport a single person, highlighting that dropping chakra levels is detrimental for him in this fight. And to speak frankly, Tobirama is going to be on the back foot for the entire battle. Akainu's Logia body takes away a lot from Tobirama's large arsenal. Tobirama would probably have a higher chance to win if Akainu couldn't evaporate his water style jutsu, not to mention that Tobirama has nothing in his arsenal that is hitting harder than 2 Quake Fists from an enraged Whitebeard or Haki strikes from Kuzan that could cause explosions. Akainu simply needs to land one strike to cause critical damage, and unlike his brother, Tobirama doesn't have a healing factor. The longer the fight drags on, the worse it gets for Tobirama because he's likely bare minimum relative in stamina to Hashirama as a highball who could fight for 24 hours straight, but Akainu's stamina completely eclipses this due to fighting non-stop for 10 days. So no matter what, if you believe Tobirama is able to prevent himself from being clipped by Akainu with Flying Thunder God the entire battle, Akainu will outlast him and take him out immediately when Tobirama grows weak enough. So for this battle, I'm gonna have to choose Akainu for the winner. There's just too many factors that dismantle Tobirama's arsenal, and Akainu has taken stronger moves than anything Tobirama can pull off. Let me know what y'all think in the comments about this battle, and by all means, give me any suggestions on any possible matchups you want to see in the future. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe if you like what you heard. Again, we are super close to 1,000 subs right now on the channel, and I appreciate you jumping on board for future content. Hope you have a great day, and please stay safe. Peace.